Hi guys, it's Mrs. Burke. I'm glad we get to be together again. It's that time of week when we get to draw together even when we're apart. And last week I showed you this painting. Do you remember it? It's a painting of weeds in a parking lot, right? Something that most people would consider ugly and annoying. But this artist saw the beauty even in something that other people might think was ugly. And so today we're going to create some special art out of things that people might think are not worthy of creating art. I was thinking, since we're all kind of stuck at home and we're working at our kitchen tables, or maybe we're working at a desk in our bedroom, that it would be some fun to have some things that make our workplaces special. But we're going to make them out of some unexpected materials. So today I'm going to show you how to make an art folder to keep all of your masterpieces in. And look, it has a special feature. It has a secret latch. And if you open it up, you'll get a secret peek at what it might be made out of. I'm going to latch it back up again. So we're going to make a folder to keep our art in. And then I thought it might be kind of fun to make a special art pencil. If you can hear, it makes some pretty cool noises. Now, if you look at this, and you look closely at this, and especially if you look inside of this, can you see what we're making our art out of today? That's right, we're making our art out of trash. This is just ripped up newspaper ads. This is an old cereal box. Our fun pencil was made up out of an old piece of newspaper. And so what I want you to do right now is I'm going to send you on a mission to go collect some things that we're going to create with today. So I want you, if you don't already have them, go get an old cereal box. Even if you have to take the packaging out of the inside and tie it up and set it back on the shelf, see if your mom or dad or grandma will let you get a box of cereal. Or it doesn't have to be a box of cereal. Maybe it's, here I am. Maybe a box of macaroni and cheese, or a box of granolas, or a box of gummies, or a box of dog treats. Just some box that isn't needed right now. And then I want you to dig around, even if you have to go to the trash can. And I want you to find maybe some grocery store ads that came in the mail. Or this is something that comes in our mail. It's called junk mail. All sorts of ads for grown-ups about things like getting their floors cleaned. Something like this. Or maybe you have some old newspaper sitting around. Or maybe you have an old McDonald's bag. Maybe you have wrapping paper. Or maybe your dog chewed up a book and there are pages inside that are still interesting to look at. I'm going to send you on a treasure hunt to go get some trash. I have a whole pile of trash right here that I'm going to use for our project today. So press pause and go get some trash. Okay, I hope you got some good trash. Your mom and dad might think you're crazy coming back and putting junk all over your art table, but we're going to make some neat stuff. In addition to trash, we are going to need some art supplies. So I want you to get your Earl Warren art bag and then pull out your scissors, your glue stick, your Sharpie, and your tape. Those are all the things that you will definitely need today, but you might find out that you still want to use some markers and crayons and colored pencils, so you can have your whole bag nearby. But you definitely need scissors, glue stick, Sharpie marker, and tape. All right, the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna take our box like this. I think I still hear a Cheerio in mine. Whoop! Now there's a Cheerio on my studio floor. We're gonna open our box up, and then we're gonna look at the bottom of the box. And we're gonna open our box from the bottom too. So I'm gonna take my fingernails and I'm just gonna pop that bottom part open like that and open that flap. And then I'm gonna open up this flap. And I'm gonna pry open the bottom of my box. Now, can you see me? I can see you. There, that's even better. So now we've made this big tunnel. But instead of keeping it like a tunnel like this, we're gonna squish it flat. So see how it kind of moves like this? We're gonna smash it flat. Maybe sometimes when you're putting away the trash, you have to smash boxes flat. But see how I've smashed it flat like that? What that does is it helps us to cut our boxes in an easier way. Now here are the parts that we're gonna cut. We're gonna cut off all of the flaps on the top, all of the flaps on the bottom, and then we're going to cut just along one side, okay? So we're gonna cut off the flaps on the top, and you can see there's a place where they fold. So we're gonna cut off right there. We're gonna cut off this little guy. We're gonna cut off this little guy. We're gonna cut off this little guy. And then we're gonna do the same thing on the bottom, cut off all the flaps. And then we're gonna cut just down one fold. Now, if it's been a while since you've used scissors, let's just do a quick review. I have big kid scissors in my hands. You might have scissors that look a little bit different from this, but the rules still apply and all of the scissors will work. So you're gonna take your scissors and put them like this so that the thumb hole is at the top and that the big hole is at the bottom. Your thumb always goes in the small hole and your 3 fingers go in the bottom hole. And the best way to cut is always away from you. Here I come. You're gonna start close to you and always cut away. Remember, if you have had me for kindergarten or first grade, you might remember this song. Chop, 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 fingers on the bottom and thumb on top. Sometimes it takes us a while, so let's just do it together. Even if you're in 6th grade, maybe you have a little brother or sister or cousin around and you can help them out. 3 fingers on the bottom, thumb on the top, chop, 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 fingers on the bottom and thumb on top. All right, let's get cutting. Okay, so now you can see we've cut off all of our flaps. We cut down the one side of our Cheerios box or our cereal box, whatever it is, and it still kind of looks like a box. So we're gonna open it up and we're gonna flip it over. And now we're gonna fold it again so that the brown part is on the outside. See how I folded it right here along one of the edges? So there should be a part right here that looks like one rectangle and then a smooth part. Same here. Okay. Now you have a choice. If you really want, you could cut off this flap and you could trim that. It's really up to you whether you want to make yours really big or a little bit smaller. I think I'm gonna, because my box here is kind of rumpled, I'm gonna go ahead and cut this part right here, and then I'm gonna trim the other side, I think. Let's see what happens. Let's go ahead and cut that. Notice I'm cutting away from myself. think I'm going to keep that part cut off. And I might cut right along there just to keep my folder one size. So I'm going to just cut that piece off right over there. Now you could keep yours bigger. My Cheerios box is bigger than my other cereal box. So my other cereal box I didn't cut, but this must be the big family size. And it doesn't have to be perfect. I might go back and trim that up a little bit. But you can see I have a nice folder, brown on the outside and yellow on the inside. You might want to press hard on your edges here. Use your thumb. You can even close your scissors and use the handle and kind of press along that seam to make it stay closed nicely. Now, you have a perfectly fine folder that you could use for your art right now, but it's so much more fun to make decorations for the outside. And that's where all of our junk mail came in. Now, on my original piece, I decided, because it's my art folder, that I wanted to make pencils. All sorts of fun pencils. And they look super fancy. They look like they're in all sorts of different colors with different patterns, but they're super, super, super simple to make. So I'm going to show you how to make these. But you don't have to make these. After I show you my technique, if you decide that you just want to do a cool drawing on the outside of your art folder, you can do that. If you decide you want to make flowers out of all of your newspapers, you can make flowers. If you want to make lightning bolts or dinosaurs or monster trucks or footballs, it doesn't matter. Whatever you want to make. But I'm going to show you how I made these pencils because it was so quick and easy and lots of fun. So if we notice the pencil, they're really just two shapes. There's the rectangular body and then the triangular tip. And you'll notice that I have them in lots of different colors, green and red and yellow and blue, more blue and purple and black and white. Well, I didn't do that on purpose. It just kind of happened, and I'll show you how. What I did was I took one of these magazines. In fact, I think I just took a grocery store ad, and not even looking inside, I just grabbed a few pages and I cut out, I'm going to grab a few pages together, and right smack dab out of the middle of it, I cut out a rectangle, a long skinny rectangle, cut off the edge. Now, I know that I get this for a pencil. That's kind of fun. But the fun part was that I'll get to be surprised at some of my other options. Look at this. It maybe just looks like gray and white on this side, but look at the interesting patterns and colors and textures on that side. Ooh, I'm going to use that one. I'm definitely going to use this one. I might use this one. I kind of like that blue that's in there. Ooh, but I really like this blue. So I'm going to get rid of that one. And this one is kind of cool. This one I think I might just keep white. Ooh, and this one is kind of neat too. Now, if I didn't find everything I liked, maybe I'm going to go back to my catalog and maybe I'm going to pick some more. I could even flip through and see, what other colors are in here? Ooh, I saw something I liked. See that cool door? Wouldn't that make a neat pencil shape? So I'm going to go back. I'm just going to cut myself a rectangle. And it's okay if it has some words. I might line it up with one of these and kind of make a rectangle about the same size. But I really like that checkerboard pattern on there. So now I have that cool pencil. So you might flip through and find some other pictures. Not that you necessarily need the picture, but maybe you just like the color. Or maybe you like the texture. Or maybe there's one with a fun word on it. So let's say I'm not going to use the magazine. Let's say I'm going to use some of my newspaper. Let's see. Ooh, maybe I love the color purple. I don't necessarily want that lady on my as my pencil, but I love that purpley color. So I could cut a pencil out of there. Ooh, isn't that fun? So now I have all sorts of different kinds of pencils. Now, you don't have to arrange yours like I did. I did mine kind of in this flower pattern. You could make cool stripes going across yours, like that. You could have yours up and down, really any way you want. And you might be looking at this and going, Mrs. Burke, why do you keep calling those pencils? Because they're just rectangles. I don't understand how they're going to be pencils yet. Well, that's because they're missing the pointy part, aren't they? They're missing this fun part right here. And that's easy peasy to do. Same idea as before. I'm going to grab one of my pencils just so I get the right width of the end of the pencil. And I'm going to stick it right on top of this set of ads. And I'm going to look at that. I'm going to hold it right up there. And I'm going to cut myself a small rectangle that's about the same width as the regular rectangle. Now again, we're making pencils, so we can't have a rectangle at the end. We need to have a point at the end. So I'm going to cut one corner and another corner, brush those away. And now I have a bunch of pencil tips to choose from. I can choose this side. Ooh, I like this side. Look at that. Doesn't that make a fun pencil? And I like that side. That one's kind of funny with the Pillsbury. Like I'm going to make muffins with my pencil. And I might not have done this perfectly. I definitely didn't. Art never has to be perfect. I'll probably go back and trim that up a little bit. But I'm going to attach the tips under all of my pencils, decide where I want them to go, and then I'm going to glue them on my notebook. So hang out with me and watch while I do that, and maybe you can try to make some pencils too. Okay, so I've got 5 great little pencils on my folder. You could do as many as you want. Different colors of pencils, different colors of lead. But you might still look at it and go, Mrs. Burke, those don't look like pencils yet. And you're right, because they need some detail. So, also, you may be signing a point during the example time that we're going to trim some off of the edges here. You could wrap them around the back if you wanted to do that. But I think I'm just going to trim these for today, like they're going off the edge. So the way we're going to get some details is with our Sharpie. Now, if we look at our original piece, you can see a couple of details that our Sharpies have that little point there. Our pencils have that little point. Then I've outlined the triangle tip. And on many of them, I've done a little wiggle, like when you put a pencil in a pencil sharpener. Then I outlined the outside of the pencil, and I even put a couple of lines going down the middle of the pencil, just like a regular pencil might have. You know, pencils usually aren't perfectly round. They're usually kind of hexagon shaped, aren't they? So I'm going to do that on here so you can see how a little bit of Sharpie marker makes a lot of interesting detail. We have fun pencils pointing towards the middle, and here's where you can continue your piece any way you want. You may choose to write your name. Maybe you're going to put your name up here. Maybe I'm going to put Mrs. Burke's Art. But maybe I want to add some designs. Maybe I want to add even just some interesting little polka dots. Maybe you want to draw your favorite character or your dog or paintbrushes. Maybe you don't want to use Sharpie at all. Maybe you want to pull out your crayons. And maybe you want to do some stripes or some polka dots. Whatever you want to make it your own. Now, guess what I just did? I made a mistake. I did it upside down and backwards. This one opens the right way. But when you're doing things on camera, sometimes you don't pay attention. This one opens like this to show my art inside. That one opens up backwards. So this might be the back of a folder. That's okay, it was still fun to do. I can flip it over and do the front side now. We could just say that that's the back of my journal. In fact, I did these with my children back in April. We made journals this way. And one of my sons made a journal like this out of a cereal box. And then on the back, he wrote, "The back of my journal." So this could be the back of my journal or the back of my art folder. All right, so now we want to talk about this fun little piece. How did we make this special little latch? And really, it's very easy. You're going to use a piece of scrap that you cut off your cereal box. We're going to cut it into the same rectangular shape like we did for our pencils. Just go ahead and cut one. Make sure it's kind of long. And you're going to cut your top right on the piece. Instead of having two separate pieces, you're going to have something that looks like this. Same exact thing that you did for your other pieces. You'll go ahead and get a piece of your newsprint or of your whatever it is you want to make for your tip. You're going to put some glue right on your pencil and glue one of those triangles right on the top. Now, the cool thing about this part, I can flip it over and I can trim it right off. Okay, so now I have my point. Now I need to choose something for the body of my pencil. And I'm really digging, let's see. I really like this contact lens ad, but I like the way that it goes blue, green, blue. So I'm going to cut myself a rectangle. This doesn't have to be perfect. See, I'm just doing it really quickly, just like that. I'm gonna put glue right on my cardboard. Before, where did we put our glue? Before we put the glue right on the actual newspaper piece. But I'm gonna take this and I'm gonna press it right on top there. Now that doesn't look right yet, does it? Because we can flip it over and trim it. I always try to figure out the lazy way to do art. Instead of measuring, it's kind of fun to just glue it on however and then trim it afterwards. Trim that just like that. Now the same exact thing that we did with the pencils on our art folder, we're gonna do right on here. You can trace the outside, you can add your squiggles, you can do your lines. That's the first step for making the little fastening buckle. Now the next thing we need, move this guy out of the way. We're gonna turn it again backwards, just because I'm silly that way. I'm gonna put my buckle down right down here. We need a place for it to fasten into. Remember on this piece, this fastens right inside of that little spot right there. Let me show you how it works. On the back of my folder, I used tape to tape down part of my pencil. Then I bent it a little bit so that it would be wiggly. Kind of wrapped it around my finger. And I used tape again to add more cardboard on the front of my folder so that this can bend and slide right inside there. So here I have my extra piece of cardboard. Here I have my pencil. We're gonna do it right on here. Remember, Mrs. Burke did this upside down. It was just writing that I did upside down. So I'm still gonna put it over here on this side. So I'm gonna flip it over to the back. I'm going to grab my tape. Look where my tape was hiding. In a mac and cheese box. I'm gonna flip it over on the back and I'm gonna put not just one piece of tape, but at least 2 pieces of tape right over the top of it. Okay, and see how I'm using my fingernail to kind of press that down really hard? That holds it nice and tight on the back. Then you're gonna fold it over so that it wraps around to the front. And this is where you have to kind of bend it a little bit. See how I'm kind of bending that a little bit? You might think that you're breaking it or ruining it, but it's really what makes it work. See how I'm gonna kind of bend that a little bit after I've stretched it? Now that it's wrapped around the front, now I'm gonna add the spot where it slides into. And we're gonna do exactly the same thing that we did on the back. We're gonna just tape it down with some clear tape. Take a piece of tape, put it on the end. Oopsies, that got a little crooked. And I'm gonna press this really nice and hard. See, I'm even using my fingernail. You wanna get it nice and tight, nice and hard on that piece of cardboard. And I'm gonna do another piece of tape right over here. You could bend this just a smidge so that it's a little bit flexible. Put that, and it's okay if that tape, see, this tape is pretty invisible. It goes right over the top. Use that fingernail. You can even use the bottom of your glue stick. I gotta remember to put my cap on my glue stick so that it doesn't dry out. So I could use my closed glue stick, make that nice and tight. And there we go. I can open it. I can put art projects inside, and I can close it up to keep them safe. All right, so here's what we ended up with. Mrs. Burke's upside down art journal that opens the wrong way. Hopefully yours opens the right way, but if not, you can always fix it. There's lots of ways that I fix art when I make mistakes. I could come back and I could glue on another piece of paper there so that it opens the right way. Or I could just decide that it goes upside down like that anyway. Or maybe I'm going to decide that it's this way. It doesn't really matter. So you've got this, we'll use my original one. You've got this piece of art, and now you can store, anytime you do an art project, you can store it right inside and keep your artwork safe. This is what we did last week when we did our names and used all of our art materials. But you don't just have to make an art folder. Maybe you want a journal, like a diary, a place to write down your thoughts and your feelings and what makes you happy and what makes you sad and what makes you worried. So you can see that one of my children made a journal. Same idea, cut the cardboard box, and then he taped paper along the inside, put the dates on the top, decorated it with some colored paper and some stickers. I made a journal too. Same thing, but this was a mac and cheese box. See how it's much smaller? I glued paper on the front. And I found some interesting things in other magazines and I glued them on. Notice this one has a rubber band because I taped my paper inside. This was actually a box, I think, for muffins. And you know how there's that bendy side right there? I decided that when I closed it, that I'm going to put a rubber band to keep that part closed so that mine opens like a book. And you can see inside I wrote some journal ideas. Places to write my thoughts and feelings, things I'm thankful for, to do some drawings, to write down ideas for inventions, to write down some dreams, and a place to write down some worries. So maybe instead of an art folder, maybe you want to make a little journal. One of my children made the world's tiniest journal. We call these junk journals because you make them out of junk that you find around. And his is teeny, 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 tiny. He found a scrap of cardboard. He taped it together, glued a bunch of paper on it, and then he has a place to write down teeny, teeny, tiny thoughts. So you don't have to make an art folder. With any old cardboard box, you can make an art folder. Maybe you're going to put math assignments in it. Maybe you're going to put creative writing stories in it. Maybe you're going to turn yours into a journal. Maybe you don't want to do pencils. Maybe you want to do a totally different design. This is your project to do with whatever you want. I just hope that you have fun and that you learn that you can make beautiful, fun, and functional things, even out of trash. Now, I'm going to show you one little bonus. I think I showed it to you at the beginning. If you have some leftover trash and you want to make something kind of fun and silly, I'll show you this project kind of as a bonus at the end. Okay, here's our bonus video. We're going to make one of these fun little pencils. So find yourself a pencil, maybe a pencil that doesn't have a very good eraser, because once you make this, you can't really use the eraser anymore. So get yourself a pencil or a pen. You can even just get an old colored pencil, anything that you want to make kind of fun. And then find some newspaper. This is again from that little magazine that we cut up to make our pencils out of. And I'm going to open it up to the middle where I see the staples. And I'm going to pull out the sheet from the middle because that gives me a nice big piece. Maybe you find a piece of newspaper. You don't want it huge, but a little bit bigger than a regular school-sized piece of paper. And then I'm going to fold my paper, but I'm not going to press it down. Usually when we fold, we press right here and make a nice crease. We're not going to do that this time. I'm actually going to fold mine with that this way. And then we're going to fold it again, almost like we're making a telescope to look through. But I'm going to press down one side. See See how I'm pressing with my fingers? Get that scrap out of the way. Pressing down with my fingers so that one side is smooth and together, but the other side is open. So you should end up with something that looks a little bit like this. I'm going to take my tape, break off a little piece, and I'm going to just tape around that edge in the middle. And I'm going to tape around that edge over here on this edge. And I'm going to tape around that edge over here. So now I have something that looks like this, like a teardrop telescope. Then I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to start cutting actually the part that looks like the rounded teardrop. I'm going to cut towards my straight edge, but not all the way through. One, and see, I'm going to cut every inch or so, maybe about the width of a thumb, maybe the width of 2 fingers. It doesn't really matter, but I don't want to cut all the way through. I don't want to cut all the way across or this will fall off. I want this to still be attached. So I'm cutting, 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 cutting all the way through. And I'm going to do that all the way till I get to the end. So now I have something that looks like this wiggly snake. And I'm going to take my pencil. Here's where you might want to prepare in advance a little bit. Sometimes it's a good idea to tear the tape in advance first. So you can take a little piece of tape, rip it off, and set it on the edge of your tape holder. Take another one, rip it, stick it on the edge. Another one, rip it, put it on the edge. And I'm going to do that till I have several pieces of tape around the edge. Now notice these aren't long pieces of tape. They're maybe 1 inch or so, 1.5 inches. But now I have all of this tape ready for me to use. I'm going to take one of those pieces of tape, put it on my finger, and I'm going to wrap my pencil with a little bit of the newspaper and tape it on. Okay, so see how that's snuggled in there? Then I'm going to roll it around and around and around a few times. Then I'm going to take another piece of tape and I'm going to just stick it on there and hold it tight. Then I'm going to roll it around and around and around. And guys, this does not have to be smooth or fancy. I'm kind of squishing things together. See how I'm kind of squeezing it at the bottom? Might grab another piece of tape. I'm going to stick that around like that. Go around and around. Now, if this guy wants to flop down, I'm going to try to keep these up for right now. Around and around and around. See how that's starting to kind of poke out like that? I'm just going to fold it over, tape that little guy down. Let's keep going. Now this is really thick, this magazine paper is a little bit thicker than newspaper, so I might decide to trim it off. Let's tape that down again. Well, let's keep going. We'll see how far we can go. We might be able to use the whole thing. This is going to be fancy. Now think, it's fun to do this with old magazines and newspapers, but what if you had some leftover wrapping paper from a birthday party? Or maybe you did a coloring page that wasn't your favorite and you wanted to use that and have all of the colors. Or maybe you made your own paper by coloring it with all of your art supplies. You have so many possibilities. All right. So we've got this all taped on there, and it looks pretty cool like it is, doesn't it? But now you can go in and separate your petals or your loop-de-loops. See how I'm gently, gently pulling them apart? You can separate them and make cool, fluffy pencil toppers. Now maybe you don't want yours loop-de-looped like that. Watch what you can do. You can take your scissors right through the tops and cut them, and then you have all of these guys that you can pull apart and play with. And you can make it as big or as wide or as fun as you want. This one, I went ahead and cut all of them because I like the sound that it makes when I twirled it around. But maybe you like to keep yours in loops. I sure would love to see, if you make one of these, will you take a picture of it and send it to your teacher so that he or she can send it to me? I sure would love to see it. Look how different these are. Same technique, but they turned out differently because I used newspaper for this one and I used a thicker magazine for this one. You can make a whole collection. You could even make a bouquet. Different colors, and you can make flowers and stick them in a jar. So many options. I hope you had fun making them. All right, guys, I had so much fun with you today. It was fun to make fun pencil toppers, and it was fun to make art folders. And what's the most fun for me is not just doing these projects with you now, but imagining what you might do next. Maybe you'll be looking through the junk mail and something will catch your eye, a color or a texture or a pattern, and you'll think, oh, I can make something beautiful out of that. That's what I hope that you do, that you will continue to create, that you'll see the possibility for making beautiful things, even out of things that other people might overlook. I love getting to draw together with you even when we're apart, and I look forward to getting together with you again.